Welcome back, parents. Listen, I don't know about you, but I am screwing up on the daily with my kids, with my spouse, just like snapping at them or not being present when my husband's trying to share something with me because I'm distracted by something else, just being in reactive mode. It feels like I'm constantly having to apologize for just kind of messing up on the regular. So if you feel like that's you too, this episode is definitely going to be helpful. As much as we try to do our best, we are human. We make mistakes. It is part of our nature to know what the right thing is to do, but then to just kind of go the other way. And it makes sense with how busy we are and how many things we have on our plates that we would just have a difficult time keeping it all together. So listen, we are not going to shame ourselves about this. We're not going to beat ourselves up. Instead, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to right those wrongs so that we can be attuned to our spouse and our kids and really help strengthen those bonds. So today I have Brooke Vincent back in the studio with me. This is her third time being on the show. So welcome back, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I love being here.
It's a pleasure. So guys, Brooke is a licensed professional counselor here in Denver, and she is married, has 2 kids. So she's in the trenches with us.
Yes.
And she's been on the show twice. And one of the episodes that she helped us with was how to diffuse tantrums in record time. I would highly recommend it. It was episode 57. Definitely been one that I have shared with people over and over again as they have said, oh, help me. I don't know what to do. My kid throws a temper tantrum every day.
Yes.
Help. So episode 57 helps with that. The other golden nugget that you shared with us was the one about timeouts versus time ins.
Yep.
And I remember you sharing just the effects of us, punishing our kids by sending them off to their room and kind of separating them from us after they've done something wrong. And I was kind of blown away by it. I was like, wow, I never realized the emotional impact that has on our kids. And so that episode was awesome. A total game changer for my husband and I, who used to use timeouts as a discipline technique. So guys, check out the episode about timeouts versus time ins, episode 61. So, Brooke, jump right in and help us understand what is going on with us in these cycles of our marriage and family relationships where we're screwing up all the time and then making these attempts to get our relationships back online, so to speak.
Yes, back on track. Yeah. So there actually is a term. It's called the rupture repair cycle. And we all do it. We all do the rupture side.
Oh, yes.
We all are rupturing pretty consistently. And then hopefully the goal is that we're adding the repair, because when we have this really beautiful rupture repair, that creates such a healthy and safe relationship, not only for our spouses and our friends, but importantly our littles, and we're teaching them. So we'd love to just talk about that today and dive into all the things. Some kind of facts about it is, again, we are all in life going to be the people that are rupturing or are on the receiving end of rupture. That's inevitable.
Yes.
That someone's going to rupture with us, or we're going to rupture with somebody. And then hopefully we're on the end of initiating that repair and also learning how to receive that repair.
Which is so important and we don't think about, but being able to receive forgiveness from someone. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a real component.
It's a component, and I'll talk about it later, because I had a really hard time with it when I first got married, because it is, you think about this cycle where you are constantly being rupture repaired, you're innately learning how to receive that repair, and you're learning it in a safe context. Yes. But if you don't have it, then it's like, I'm hurt. We don't do anything about it. Now what? If someone's all of a sudden like, let's make it right. You're like, what?
This seems weird.
Yeah, I don't trust you. This so I love your disclaimer too. I think if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I've never repaired with my kids, or I've never had anyone repair with me, which is so tender. The goal here is not shame. Shame has no place. It's actually not productive at all.
That's right.
But I would encourage everybody just to be curious and compassionate about the piece of you that maybe didn't learn this, that has never received this. And then also connecting to the piece of you that wants to do something different. Because that's so beautiful and so brave. So that's the atmosphere we're doing, because we're all just learning together, learning, trying.
I love that. And what I was thinking before you came over and we were just reflecting about, messing up and then repairing that, I was thinking, this really comes from our own experience as children and how our parents modeled, screwing up and then apologizing or not apologizing.
100%.
And one of the articles I read was saying, how did your parent, repair their relationship with you? Did they, like stonewall you and ignore you until you said you were sorry?
Yes.
Like a punishment.
Yes. Oh, a punitive nature.
Yes.
And then even an offshoot of that is like modeling that as spouses in front of our children. Like conflict in front of children is a whole nother topic. But even if you can have healthy conflict in front of your children and like model repair between your partner and yourself is a huge thing for children to learn. Like, oh, they can come apart and they come back together and the family is still stable and we are all safe.
Yes.
Everybody's okay. So
yes. The good thing to reflect on, I guess, if you're listening, like how was, this rupture repair cycle modeled for you?
Yes.
And how might your spouse's history of that be different or the same?
And how they interact together.
Yes.
100%.
Huge.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. We'll
okay.
Take it away.
So I think it's important to kind of define, we're saying rupture repair, but some people might be like, but what are those things? So let's just kind of dive into rupture. So when I'm saying rupture, it is pretty self-explanatory. I'm talking about an actual rupture, a miss, a hurt, a disconnection in the relationship. Discord has happened in the relationship, and rupture is not one size fits all. It's not, this is rupture, this is not. It's very nuanced, and we'll talk about that. But some examples of rupture with our partner could be saying a condescending remark in a conflict where you're just like, I know, I'm going for the jugular. That's rupture.
Yes.
Yelling at your kids and popping off. That's rupture.
Yes.
It could be missing a friend's birthday and that they are birthday people and it really mattered to them and you missed their birthday. That's rupture in the relationship. So really anything that kind of gets the relationship off kilter, but it's nuanced because that's different for every person.
Yes.
With kids, it's a little more black and white because we're the adults in the room.
Right.
There's only adults in the room. And so we are responsible for that safety in a relationship. But that's what I'm talking about when I say rupture. And the emphasis really is on the person's experience of the rupture. So for instance, I might have a friend, I actually do have a friend who does not care if I remember her birthday. We laugh about it all the time. She's like, yeah, you got it the same year. Well done. And I'm like, thank you. You're right. I did. And then I might have another friend that's super important to them. And it really hurt their heart that I missed it.
Yes.
So it was a rupture for one and it was not a rupture for the other.
Yes. Different for everyone.
Yes. So that's important to know, and that we are focusing on the other person's experience of it. And that's the rupture. And that's what matters.
Which is so important because I think we can, project our own idea of rupture onto someone else and be like, why are you making such a big deal of that? Oh, right. Yes, and it's like, no. This is a big deal to them.
Exactly.
It may never affect you in that way. Like you said about the birthday. I don't, if someone remembers my birthday, great. If not, no big deal. But if they're speaking up and saying, this really hurt me, or I'm really disappointed, man, we've celebrated my birthday for 10 years and like, this is a big one. You forgot. Yeah. Like you just have to give them the benefit of it's like, yeah, okay, that is a big deal to you.
Correct. And it's not right or wrong. Exactly. It just hurt.
Yes.
And so there are sometimes rupture is very obvious, the like snapping at your kids or the whatever, the condescending remark with your spouse. And then sometimes it's not so obvious.
Yes.
So just being curious about that.
Absolutely. So you might not even realize you've ruptured a relationship with someone until they initiate that repair.
Correct. And I even have this with my kid. Like sometimes if Tuck, my son, I've had it to sometimes where I'll see him kind of withdrawn or sullen, and I'll go, buddy, talk to me. Like, what's going on? And he'll tell me like, well, you didn't ask me about this, or when you said this, that really hurt my feelings. And it wasn't on my radar.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, bud. Okay. So we had a rupture. I didn't know about it. It wasn't something that I did wrong. It was for humans and relationship, and it hurt his little heart. And so we talk about it.
Yes. But I love how you mentioned that you observe his behavior.
Yes.
Right. And you notice something a little different. So then you check in about a rupture.
Mm-hmm.
Not even saying like, hey, did I rupture?
Yes.
But you're going, what's going on? Let me check and see if there has been a rupture made so that we can repair it and move through this. And he can feel validated in his feelings, and you're not pulling him through his feelings and like forcing him to hurry up and process that. But you're going, oh, I noticed something's different. Let's address this. And then, oh, this feels good.
Yes.
I'm being heard. I can move through, and
we're back to being connected and go on our merry ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's really rupture, what we mean about that. So then when we talk about repair is the action of reinitiating, reestablishing that connection and safety within the relationship. You're saying, I see something's wrong, or I did something wrong. If it's that like overt kind of rupture, it matters to me. Your feelings matter to me. This relationship matters to me. I'm sorry. How do we make it better? That is repair in a nutshell. We'll talk much more about how we do that, but that's what I'm talking about. Doing what needs to be done to get the relationship back online. So maybe there might be, let's say, like, Tuck knocks down Ellie's Legos. Part of the repair might be he goes, helps her build the Legos. He says, I'm sorry, all these things, but it's figuring out what the relationship needs to get back on kilter.
Yes, figuring out what the relationship needs to get back in attunement with each other, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it.
Okay, so then we know what these things are. Then let's talk about how the heck do we do this? How do we do this? And I love what you said, because attunement really is a big piece of this, attunement to our kids. Again, sometimes you say something, it lands on somebody's face, and you're like, or we just ruptured. That's really obvious. Or the things with our kids, we know that. But we do need to be attuned to our kids and also ourselves. I think this is, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but sometimes I'll like have a conversation with a friend. I don't feel that great. And then I'm like processing. And then a couple of days later, I'm like, oh, that hurt. That comment hurt.
Yes.
Oh, okay. We like essentially ruptured. Oh, that's what I'm feeling. So it takes attunement on our own part of our experience of the relationship.
Yes. 100%. I'm laughing at
I was going to say, tell me.
Yes. I call myself a delayed responder.
Yeah.
Right. So I might not feel ruptured in the moment.
Yep.
But my brain kind of catches up with my heart like 3 days later. And then I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I've had a really good day. And then I kind of look back over the last couple of days and I'm like, that's why.
Yes.
I'm finally processing what was said or done, or the look, or the ignoring, or whatever, the grief.
Yes.
And it hits me after the fact. So with that, I mean, I think that's a great kind of way to illustrate that, like, rupture repair, it doesn't have to be like done within 30 seconds.
That's a good point
of the rupture, right?
Yeah.
It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be years, really.
Yeah. And certainly, like, I think, especially as an adults, and we're kind of more in charge of that, time happens. With our kids, we want to try to do it as quick as possible.
Yes.
However, it isn't this, like, again, one size fits all rupture repair cycle. It is big. One size fits lots.
Yes. That is so true.
Yes. So we really, how you do this is, again, you're tuning to the infraction, you're tuning to the disconnection, the discord, and then you're being curious about it. If like with kids, if I know that I like snapped at my kid, I can go, oh, okay, buddy, mommy just spoke to you really unkindly. I know that. I'm naming the infraction. I'm naming what I see on their face, especially with kids. I can see that really hurt your heart. I can see that made you frustrated. Will you tell me if they're a little bit older, will you tell me what that was like? How did that feel? So you're kind of honoring, being curious about their feelings instead of assuming only that you know what it was like for them. And then you're apologizing. And I think asking for forgiveness is an unsung hero. There is something about asking for forgiveness that is way more vulnerable than just saying, I'm sorry, and, shutting out like, sorry, okay, bye, we're done, right?
Yes.
So I do that with my 3.5-year-old. I asked her forgiveness.
Yes.
And then oftentimes too, like that action step, I'll ask my kids, like, do you want a hug? Do you want some snuggle time? And sometimes they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, come here. And we snug it out. Other times like, no, I'm I'm good. And they're off to the races. And I'm like, okay, peace. We're good, you know? But you're checking in, and I don't know about you, but with like my husband, if we're ever in the kind of, we're fighting and we get through it, we repair, I needed like a hug. Yes. I need a closure moment, you know, I need like a physical sign of that emotional disconnection is now over. We're back in synchrony. And so I enjoy a hug. He doesn't need a hug, but I'm like, can you hug me, please? Yes. So sometimes the repair is not just like, okay, I'm sorry, now we're moving on. It's, do you need anything else? That's when I also do that. Do you need anything else from me? Is there anything else I need to know? Is there anything else I can do? Yes. And so there might be like, yeah, you need to go talk to that friend that you really talked unkind to me about and make it right. Tell them that wasn't true. There might be something that you need. Oh, yes. Or it might just be, no, this was good. Thank you for acknowledging it. There's been this felt sense of the discord. I felt it and it mattered to me. Your feelings matter to me. And I'm communicating that to you. Yes. By my words, by how I'm looking at you. It's not like, I'm sorry I yelled. Sorry. You know, that's not repair. That is not repair. Right. Also, it's not, I'm sorry I yelled, but you didn't listen to me when I was talking kindly to you, so I had to. That's also not repair. Exactly. That's blaming. That's blaming. So the accountability piece of repair is what's so important. I'm taking accountability for something that I know I did wrong, or the kind of more covert things that hurt you. Yeah. You know? So maybe I didn't do something necessarily wrong, but it hurt you, and that matters to me. And I'm letting you know that matters to me. Yes. And the way you apologize, I'm glad you brought that up, because that makes such a difference. I know that it's when you're in the heat of the emotion, or you're upset with yourself for how you handled a situation, or your child is acting in a way that's frustrating to you and you're trying to repair the relationship and you're saying you're sorry, it is tempting, or it could be just part of a reaction. Maybe you're not quite ready to do initiate the repair, where you're like, I'm sorry I yelled. But if you would stop doing this every time I tell you to do it, then I wouldn't have to get so mad. Correct. And it's like, that is definitely not repair. No, I love what you said about the blaming, because then you're making the child responsible for your actions and for your feelings. And actually nobody's responsible for your feelings but you. Exactly. So yeah, it is really, and I think with kids, I always say, give me your eyeballs, because when they look at me with their eyeballs, I'm immediately softened when I see their little eyeballs, no matter how mad I am. Yes. Their eyeballs, I'm like, and they can see that. They see my reaction to their eyeballs, and then we can now talk. Yes, you're getting on their level. Yes, always, and I always crouch down too. Or we put them on our stairs, and we put them a couple stairs above us, and we sit below them, so that there's not this like power dynamic happening. So yes, don't be like, I'm so sorry. That's right. And you want to like connect. It's again that felt sense. We all know with like couples, it is humorous. I'll just say that it is humorous. Where they'll be like, can you apologize? And they'll be like, I'm sorry. And I'll turn to them like, do you believe him? Right. And they'll be like, no. And I'm like, okay, can we try that again? What would help you believe him? Well, if he looked at me, or if he talked more kindly, or if yes, I actually felt like he meant it. There is a difference. Yes. And feeling like they actually mean it. Yes. So, yeah. Well, a lot of parents, I feel like they struggle with apologizing. And I feel like one of the reasons why is because they are fearful that they will lose their authority, their place of authority in the relationship. And like, if I say I'm sorry, then they're going to get away with something, or they won't feel like I'm serious about what I talked to them about. Yes. Yes. Speak to that a little bit. Yes. I love that. That's one of mine. Like, why is this so hard? Because yes, parents are really scared to lose credibility with kids or with each other. You know, I don't want to admit to something that I didn't do wrong. And really the beautiful thing is you're actually, especially with adults and kids, they know you've done something wrong, whether you want to admit it or not. Yes. And so you're actually gaining credibility, you're gaining respect, you're gaining trustworthiness, you're gaining trust by admitting it. Yes. Because everybody in the room already knows it. Yes. They're not smart. Yes. Their brains are saying something's not right here. Right. And this was an infraction. Yes. And I have been hurt. Yes. And so to deny that you've done something wrong is also such a point of confusion in their psyche. Correct. And I think over time, if we continue to do that to kids as parents, in denying responsibility or denying that that was something that was hurtful, or just avoiding
it all together, where you don't deny that you did anything. You just don't address it. You just walk off like, I was justified in that.
Yes.
If we do that over a period of time, what I've seen in counseling adults is that when they have this type of history in their childhood, they have this weakened sense of self, and they have a lack of trust in their own judgment towards people. They're like, no, I must be wrong.
Yes.
Because for all these years, I thought somebody was hurting me, but they never would say that they did. And so now I'm not sure. I'm really confused about when I'm hurt and when I'm not. And so they could even put this sort of guard up where it's like, nothing hurts.
Oh,
I'm never hurt.
100%.
I guess I shouldn't, It
doesn't matter. I'm fine.
Right.
Yes, 100%. I love that you said that, because you're absolutely right. And I think I see this a lot with the kind of the more nuanced ruptures where it wasn't black and white, that I did something wrong.
Right.
And I hear a lot of people put their heels down of like, well, I didn't do anything wrong, so I don't want to apologize. And like, take the example with Tuck where he tells me that I didn't react to his drawing like he liked her. Like, what do I have to lose by saying I'm sorry? I'm hanging on to what is it that I'm actually hanging on to?
Yes.
I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't ill intent, but he's hurt.
Right.
So I'm hanging on to, like, I think if we kind of strip it down, it's like, well, what are you really trying to hang on to? This like really fragile sense of authority or view of self or whatever it might be that's false anyways. So
yes, it's almost like you're trying to save face.
Correct.
But at what expense?
Yes. And what's the gain?
Right.
You're not saving face with your child. It's like it's a false sense of saving face, I think is like a maybe way to put it.
It is. And parenting is the long game. We are, like you said,
right.
What do I have to lose by apologizing for something that was hurtful to him?
Yeah.
May not have been hurtful to me. That's the whole point of this. It's not about you. It's about the other person.
Yes, I love that.
But then, making sure that you're thinking like, if we repair this, then we're on level ground again.
Yep.
We're building this foundation of safety and trust in the relationship, which is huge. And you're really going to need that when they're teenagers and they're young adults, and you want them to come talk to you about things, and you want them to apologize when they've done something wrong. And
yes.
Right. So put the ego aside.
Right.
Saving face is really just a myth,
Yeah.
Go for it. Go in, initiate the repair is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree.
And then you can also bring kids into this. So let's say, like for that, like knocking down example, let's say Elle knocks down Tuck's Lego tower. So we would address that, like I've talked about in other episodes. And then we would go, okay, Elle, look at Tucky. Look and see, he's pretty sad, huh? Okay. What do you think he needs to feel better? I don't know. Okay. Do you think maybe if we make it right? In our household, we use let's make it right. So that means apologizing.
Yes.
And we say, look at him in the eyeballs so you make it right.
Yes.
And so then it's like, okay, well, maybe if she doesn't know, you can start to give, do you think maybe he'd want you to help him rebuild that tower? Do you think that might feel good to him? Why don't you ask him if he would like that help? Mm-hmm. Ask him if he would like a hug. So you're teaching them how to attune to somebody else.
Yes.
And then address the rupture. And there is no shame. It's not like, well, I can't believe you did that. You better go make it right. Go apologize to your brother right now. There isn't this.
Which is what people typically do.
Right. And it feels good. You're making them apologize, but that is a behavior that they're marking off versus this kind of character development of, oh, I see the rupture. That matters to me. And there's a way that I can fix this.
Yes. Again, the long game. Take extra 2 minutes to give them the language, give them some suggestions. Try this. If that doesn't work, maybe try this to initiate the repair with your brother, right? So we talked about this in a couple of the other episodes that you were on, just like the importance of, when our kids are so young and they haven't had 20 years of apologizing or having people hurt them, that the words that we use with them will be the words that they use going forward. And so giving them this plethora of words and language and phrases to practice is what's going to build their vocabulary for repairing relationships in the future. So it's not about just saying, go do the thing, hurry up and say you're sorry and like get this over with and take responsibility and
stop
get
fighting
in the car because we gotta go.
Right, exactly.
It's just like when you're on the go and you're busy, and sometimes that's just our reaction, right?
Oh, yes. It's such a human reaction. Absolutely.
Yes.
We just want the quick fix. Yes. And I think we laugh now too, because we'll like in the mornings they're up in their like room area playing, and we'll hear the like what, and then we'll hear, I'm sorry, what do you need? I'm sorry. They're like going, and they're kids, and sometimes you have to intervene, but they're trying their best and they're learning how to receive and they're learning how to offer. But this becomes something that then we don't have to prompt, because it's part of our family culture. We make it right when something goes awry.
That's right. Isn't that a beautiful moment when you're like in earshot and you're playing out what you've like modeled or you've been working on for so long, and you're like, they got it, they're doing it.
Yes.
Another beautiful thing about the rupture repair cycle, I think for me, is I think about, the love between my husband and I, and when we are in this place of rupture and disconnection and separation in our thoughts and in our hearts.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want immediately. I'm like, I need to repair this quickly. Mm-hmm. When you love someone so much, it's like you want to repair things right away because it feels so bad to be so disconnected.
I think that's a really good point, because when that connection experience is so widened, and that is kind of the homeostasis, that is the basis. When you fall out of line with that, you don't want it.
Right.
It doesn't feel good. And then when you have skills, you're like, I know how to get back in. It's not this like peril. Oh my gosh, I'm swirling. I don't know how to get out of here.
Yes.
It's, this doesn't feel good. I don't like living this way. And I know how to get back into connection.
Yes.
So I'm going to do that.
Yes. And when you are in a place of like this ruptured relationship with your spouse, even just something relatively small.
Oh yeah,
right?
I forgot chicken at the grocery store, and you're like, I told you 3 times. Chicken was the only thing I needed from the grocery store.
Exactly. Yes. There's always something that you could say about how you could do something different as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what? Next time I may just text you and leave you a quick voicemail. Like you're saying, this isn't all on you, right? You're busy. You've got things going on too. Like maybe there's something that I can do that would influence this in another way that could make this right the next time.
Very collaborative. And you're also kind of naming without naming their goodwill. They weren't trying to make you mad by forgetting the chicken.
Right.
It just happened, and that's frustrating, and that's okay. But there's not this like malintent behind that he's like specifically like, oh, I can't wait to make her mad. Yes. This is going to go well for me when I get home.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I had an example of this just last night.
Oh, yes. I can't wait.
I'm always so grateful for these personal experiences that I can, share then later with our awesome parent community. But yesterday I'm working along and I have my schedule kind of planned out for the day. And I'm thinking, okay, my husband's going to take my son to wrestling in the evening. And so my daughter and I will be home. So I'm going to finish up some work, and then we're going to work on some Christmas stuff. And then I'm going to like clean out my office. And so I'm going to clean out my office while my son's at wrestling with my husband. Well, then he calls and I say, are you about home? Or like, I've got dinner ready. And he's like, I have got to stay at work for 2 more hours. I've got to get through this stuff. Mm-hmm. I need you to take Lincoln to wrestling. And I was like, ugh. It was that point where I was like, okay, there's an intersection of the road here. Mm-hmm. Which direction am I going to take? Mm-hmm. Because I could be like, this is last minute. I had plans for my own evening. This is really upsetting. Why? Mm-hmm. He never does this.
Sure.
So I was like, wow, for him to ask me to do this, first of all, it took a lot of courage on his end to know that he's interrupting my evening and like changing the plans that we had.
Sure.
But then also I was just like, you know what? I'm going to run him to wrestling. I'm going to come back. I bet I can still get some of the things done that I wanted to do.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm taking the high road. This is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can handle this. Yep. This wasn't in the plans, but I've got this. Okay. So he's like, all right, cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So I hang up. I'm like, okay, recalculating,
yes. Oh yeah.
Take my son to wrestling, come home. I'm working in the office. And then it's not until about 5 minutes I have to, go get my son again. And I'm like, wish I didn't have to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm right in the middle. And then I'm like, wait, but I'm going to go do it because I have to do it anyway. I already committed to do it. So I go get him, I bring him home. And then I'm thinking, you know what? I think I'm going to confront my husband and ask him like, hey, why did you decide like last minute? Mm-hmm. And then you just spring this on me. And like my whole evening is kind of like I had to do a lot of recalculating. And then I thought, again, what is the point of bringing this up? Mm-hmm. Like I've already done the thing he asked me to do, and I've already retooled my schedule. And I was okay with it. But it's interesting how you think something's hurt me
Mm-hmm.
and I have to I'm going to have to confront him about this and tell him he's hurt me.
Sure.
But then I waited and I didn't, and I kind of worked through it.
Yeah.
Well, then this morning comes, okay? I've had a night to sleep, people. And I'm like, I am still curious. Like, what was the thing that made last night, the night he has to stay late?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm just curious. What was going on last night that you had to stay later? And he's like, oh, I had this one client file that I had to get done because there was a deadline on it. And, it was really important to me to do what I told him I was going to do. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that in the time frame of my work hours. So I had to maintain my integrity and do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
But I could tell he was just kind of like, ugh, I know it was an inconvenience, And so for me, that was like an unspoken apology where he just took accountability. Like I didn't get my work done in the time allotted.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious too about that, like the repair, it wasn't a verbal, I didn't say, that really bothered me or frustrated me.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, I'm really so sorry I put all this on you.
Yes.
But there was this, this morning, I was like, I feel good about that.
I feel good. Okay. Yeah.
Is that common that once you're together for a long period of time, you develop these more natural ways of
and I think that's things. You guys' trust in each other, again, of the goodwill. He wasn't trying to inconvenience you.
Yes.
And you knew it was for a valid reason. And I think, again, holding, you're allowed to be frustrated by the situation and he's allowed to need to work later. It's just hard.
Yes.
It's just hard. And no one's doing anything wrong. It was just hard. But I think you got what you needed in that explanation of, oh, it wasn't you just I was talking to my buddies.
Yes.
And we just had a great time in the office, and you're like, what? It felt like, oh, you really thought about that. You understood the impact it took on me.
Yes.
And so you weren't asking that just willy-nilly. You were really thoughtful in how it impacted me. And I think that probably felt like the repair, that he was empathizing with what the consequences of his actions had for you.
Yes. So I guess I did kind of initiate the repair this morning by just kind of being like, hey, so why did you stay late?
Yes.
Why did you?
Yes. Well, and I think it's interesting that you use the word confront, because I'm like, well, I don't know that it's really even confronting. It's more sharing. Hey, I was really frustrated that you did that last minute. That was really hard for me. And again, he doesn't need to do anything different. You're just sharing. It's like, that was frustrating. That is so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's just a known. There isn't a yes, I did the thing. I'm so terrible. It's just, that was really hard.
Yes. I like how you say that too, because that's a good initiating step for a repair is, hey, can I share something with you?
Exactly. Yes.
You're asking a question. Do you have time to listen? You kind of hurt my feelings on this one thing.
Correct.
Or this was really difficult for me to handle.
Correct. You're not coming at it blame. You're not coming in hot going, we need to talk. What you did was so unacceptable. It's like, hey, that was hard.
Yes.
That hurt. Can we just talk about it?
Yes.
And I think when you have this kind of rupture, repair, the repairs don't feel like, okay, I'm getting up all the courage to go do this, or this is going to go down because I'm confronting him. It's just this is what we do in relationships.
Yes.
There was a little miss and I talk and then we're done. It doesn't have to be this hour conversation between you and your husband where you rework your calendars and he agrees to never do this again. And it's just, you got what you needed and now you guys move on.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
Yes.
There's all kinds of levels of repair.
There is.
The more you condition yourself to do this and receive it, the more often it's going to happen, the more quickly the repairs are going to happen.
Yes. It's more comfortable. Yeah.
Oh, yes. This is so good.
Yes. And so I think along those lines, if you're in the camp of whoa, we've never done this before. This is what do I do now? You can invite your kids, your spouse into that repair process and repair that you haven't been repairing. And so you can sit them down and go, hey, mommy's been learning a lot and we want to do some things different. So we have a household where it's okay to mess up. And when we hurt each other's feelings or we miss, it really matters to us.
Yes.
And so I want to start trying something different. Mommy, when I start to miss or mess up or do make a mistake, because we all do, I want to start taking ownership, or you can use the word according to, ages, but I want to start making it right with you guys.
Yeah.
So and then you could role play with stuffed animals. You could role play with each other. You can make it silly. And then you can say, what do you guys think? You want to join me? Can we start doing this together?
Yes.
Can we start making it right with each other when we get it wrong? And then you can say, hey, mommy's sorry we haven't done this before. It really matters to me
Yes.
that if I ever hurt you or you're ever sad, that I know about that. I'm sorry we haven't talked about this before. And I can't wait to do this moving forward.
So healthy.
So you repaired, not repairing it. It's like, okay, we're learning, we're adding this into our family culture. It's just, this is what we're doing.
Yes. It's a growth mindset. You're saying we're always open and willing to learn something new and implement it in our family and mess up at it. When we get going on something new.
Right.
Right. I love that. I'm thinking also of friends of mine who have teenagers, and there's often one parent that clashes pretty significantly with the teenager because they are like-minded.
Oh yeah.
They're both stubborn.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're going to just stick their heels in and like,
oh yeah,
we're not giving in. Neither of us is going to apologize.
100%.
I was right and I was right.
Yeah.
And so the power of the apology in a relationship like that is huge. And parents, if you're listening and this is going on with you and your teenager, an apology and just saying, you know what, one of the things I really kind of stink at is owning my actions.
I love that.
And like just verbalizing that to you and apologizing to you. And I realized that that's probably, you know, been very hurtful to you over the years for me to yell at you, to, you know, grab something away from you and hold it away from you for a month, your phone or your tablet or whatever, with no communication about what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for that. And I want to work on apologizing and catching myself when I'm overreactive or I'm, you know, I scream at you or I cuss when we're in an argument, you know, like hold me accountable for that. Like, but it can be difficult in those relationships where you feel like, nope, because that will give them too much power. That will give my teen too much power. They'll call me out on my behavior because I've given them permission to do that.
I love it. I think, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I think as parents, it's always on us to be the initiators of repair. Always. And even if with older kids, if there's been a disagreement, you can find something to apologize for. And so even if they need to apologize as well to mend the relationship, and sometimes ruptures require 2 apologies. You know, we've both been ruptured in one instance. And so we both need to apologize. Even if that's the case, and even if you walk into the room and you apologize and they just look at you like they don't care at all, that's okay. It actually matters. And you're modeling to them that I'm not above apologizing, and apologizing matters.
Yes.
Nobody is above apologizing in this household.
Yes.
So I love it. And then I think just owning like this is not what we've done. Dan Siegel's is like, name it to tame it. I tell clients all the time, if it's hard, just say, this is really hard.
Yes.
If you feel like you can't get an apology out, be like, I need to apologize and I can't get it out. And that kind of diffuses the situation.
Yes.
Just get it out that it's hard. And that's okay. We all have our things that are hard.
Yes. If you can name it, you can tame it. I love that. Put some words to it.
Yes.
And again, you are like, you make such a good point about teens. Like they may roll their eyes or just be like, you're just saying this. You know what I mean? Like you're just saying this because you know this is what you're supposed to do, but I don't trust that you're ever going to apologize again. Like they could give you that body language or that feedback. And it's so important to rise above that, right? To be like understanding and empathetic that this is new to them. And so they don't really maybe fully trust that you mean what you're saying. But establishing a pattern of apologizing and continuing to call yourself out. We talk about this all the time because it's in our kids' journal. Like it's cool to call yourself out. Be the first one to admit that you did something wrong. Like we have to constantly be modeling what we want our children to do as kids and as adults.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And they might, especially if it's not a pattern you've had before, they really might not believe you and they have reason to. So you can empathize with that. And then again, it's how you do it. That they need to feel that you're sorry, not like, sorry, we're apologizing in our household now. So sorry I did that and walk out. It's the like, sit down, connect, have that felt sense. I'm connecting to what happened in your heart. It matters to me. I'm sorry.
Yes. And it's the virtue of humility, right? Humbling yourself to call yourself out without blaming them for their behavior and just saying, I'm taking a little personal inventory here and I screwed up. And there's something that I can do better. And so if you struggle with pride or you struggle with like saving face, just know that this is one of those little things you can work on, just making an apology to grow in the virtue of humility.
Correct. Oh, yeah. Preach.
Yes, I love it.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue because then I want to talk about why, like what makes this hard. So we're talking about it sounds lovely. There's so many benefits, but really what makes this hard? And there are a bunch of different things that make it hard. And we've kind of touched on some of them, but you might not have this pattern of attunement with your kids, with your partner, with yourself. Kind of like we talked about, I might not know. Maybe I've been so shut off to hurt. So I don't really know what it feels like when someone hurts me because I've been so disconnected from that. Or maybe there's such a chronic pattern of disconnection with my kids that I don't really know when we're misaligned. And so that might make it really hard. And if it does, there are ways, presence, getting connected to your kids, spending that time uninterrupted, just getting to know them better, knowing what they look like when they get sad, knowing what their reactions are. But that will make it hard if there's not that pattern of attunement.
Yes.
So being aware of that. You mentioned this too, but was this modeled for you? I did not grow up in a household where this was modeled. And I can't remember if I said this in the earlier podcast, but Anthony my husband and I laugh now because when we first got married, he is so good at apologizing. And he would like fire hose me with apologies to the point where I'd be like, stop, you have apologized enough. There is nothing else you need to apologize for.
Yes.
And for me, it would take everything in me to like eke out half an apology.
Yes.
Him, it was like just passing them out.
Yeah.
It was so hard for me. It wasn't modeled. It didn't feel safe. Lots of different reasons why, but maybe it wasn't modeled for you. Maybe it wasn't modeled for your spouse. So that having compassion for yourself and curiosity about what did you learn about repair? Did you learn anything? Maybe you learned a really like untrue lesson about it. So digging that can make it a little bit hard. We kind of talk about this, scared of losing credibility with their kids. It does the exact opposite. You're actually gaining more respect. You're actually gaining more trustworthiness. You're being the leader and fostering emotional safety in your home by apologizing. Even if you disagree with what you're apologizing about, you're actually gaining their respect and trust. So,
yes.
But parents are really scared of that.
Yes.
I think kind of a conjunction of that is some people feel like it's a sign of weakness by apologizing and being weak. And really apologizing is vulnerability, but vulnerability and weakness sometimes get really misconstrued or feel like the same thing. And it's not that at all. Vulnerability is actually, you need a lot of strength to be vulnerable, and apologizing, admitting when you're wrong is very hard and takes a lot of strength. But if it feels weak, or maybe weakness you like was exploited in your home and if you showed any signs of weakness, you were in trouble.
Yes.
In a myriad of ways. And so maybe that feels really hard because I feel weak when I apologize. And I was told you're weak if you apologize. There's a lot of different ways that this could be misconstrued for people. So detangling that.
Yes, I love that. And you talk about, it not being something that you're used to doing and having a hard time with it. I would say it was the same in our relationship where my husband just like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. And he'd be very specific about what he was apologizing for that he did wrong. And it was like, and I can forgive in 2.2. Like, I love it. I'm like, as soon as you apologize, it's gone forever for me. Okay. Like, I'm just like, oh, this feels so good. Yeah, you're forgotten. Like, cool. Let's go on.
Yes.
But for me to initiate an apology was so difficult. And I felt like so nervous about it and just shaky, kind of like, oh, is this going to sound right? Like, and being a person that's so hard on myself for messing up. If you're a perfectionist or you just have super high standards, then it's like, oh no, but I've already beaten myself up. And then I say it again. I'm going to it's going to hurt me again to admit I'm wrong, which is good. It's okay. It's part of the process.
Yes.
But I think my point in saying that is like, if this seems foreign to you or you're trying this on in your mind as you're listening, right? Like, I'm really sorry for losing it on you in the car, when you got out to go into high school this morning or whatever. Like, just try it.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just put it out there. It gets easier the more you do it.
It's true. It's very true.
And you have to start in order to feel the internal benefits of doing what's right, which is taking responsibility and personal accountability for what your part. You have to start trying it so that you get the benefits and you're like, oh, this is good. This is it. I like this.
We're all okay.
Yes.
I didn't die. I didn't combust.
Apology.
Exactly. Yes. I love that you said that's literally one of my points. That if you have a really rigid view of self or high expectations or perfectionism, and then shame is often it's like best friend.
Yes.
And so it feels like earth shattering to make a mistake, much less admit it. And
Yes.
so having some more flexibility with yourself is the answer to that. And acceptance. I am human. I am going to mess up. There is no way I can be perfect. Then it's not so scary when I do.
Yes. And I think also just reminding ourselves, like, everyone ruptures relationships every day.
Every day.
When someone hurts you, it's you can come from a place of compassion and going like, something's going on for them.
Yeah.
They're human.
They're human.
We should not put them on a pedestal and think like they're incapable of doing something wrong to us. Like, we should actually expect, like, on the daily, someone's going to hurt us.
Yes. Yeah. Truly. I mean, it's just part of being in relationship with humans.
Yes.
We're all human. We can't be anything but human.
That's right. And think about the entanglement of our pasts, right? Like, I am one person with parents and a, family of origin that acted in a certain way. And then I marry my husband who has his whole string of family stuff. And then we create children, and then they are an offshoot of us in some different ways and temperaments and personalities. Like, it's all an entangled kind of beautiful mess of our own egos and feelings and
wirings and absolutely. Yep. So I love that. And then we've kind of touched on this one as far as its humility. It's very humbling to consistently do this. I'll give you a personal example within the past 2 weeks. So I'm sitting here talking about this. Repair is a high value in my household and my relationships. Everyone knows it in my household. And the other day, it was nap time. It had been a morning already. And Ellie Mae had a different set of priorities as nap time was happening than I did.
I can totally understand.
And so it had been the, like, I've told you to do the thing 20 times in 2 minutes, and you're still making a choice that's not in line with what I'm asking. And so I started getting snippy and impatient and hurried. And as I'm doing this, I can see her starting to kind of float and get a little more disconnected from me. I see it on her face. She's a little more withdrawn. Her body language has now changed. She's not full on tantruming, but I can see it happening.
Yes.
So I get her into bed and I'm like, well, it's not good for her to go to bed mad because then she won't sleep. And I don't like it. It's already separation in the relationship at nap time. Okay. So I lay down. But I'm mad. I'm still frustrated because I'm worn out.
Yes.
And so I'm laying there and I'm looking at her eyeballs. And so I'm like, Ellie Mae, I love you very much. So glad you're mine. I'm just like speaking all these affirmations and she's just nodding at me. And Jordan, I'm like literally doing everything but apologizing to Repair.
You're dancing
I'm dancing all around it because I'm still mad.
Yes.
But she's not responding to that. I'm saying really lovely things, but she's not responding to it.
Oh.
And so I was like, had a moment. I took a deep breath. I'm like, Brooke, put your big girl pants on. You're the only adult in the room. You got to act like it. And so I just said, Ellie Mae, Mommy got really frustrated and really impatient. And I'm sorry. Hugging me.
Yes.
Beaming on her eyeballs. And then, okay, good night, Mommy.
Yes.
She knew it. She needed me to have that acknowledgement and that felt sense. I messed up. That matters to me. And she was done. But nothing else was going to work. I tried. I was doing song and dance to not apologize. Yes. And I care about this stuff. Repair is a high value to me. Yes. And yet it's still hard.
Yes.
It's still hard in the moment to just humble yourself and go, you did make me mad. Well, no, you didn't make me mad, but I was very frustrated by what happened. And it was frustrating.
That's right.
And I still have to take accountability for my actions.
Yes. Even if I'm frustrated, I still can make a choice to calm myself down and then address you or take my own little personal space. And then, and I love in the apology, you're saying, there's things I can work on. There's a number of different things that I can do differently. And so by verbalizing that to them, again, you're giving them the language to use for themselves. So they're like, oh, wait, I could do this differently. And you start hearing them use your words. Yeah. It's the cutest thing.
The sweetest thing. I love it so much. As long as they're good ones. The bad ones, you're like, oh, no, that was me.
Exactly. They really do.
They do them all, yes. Mm-hmm. And then I think one of the last things, and we've kind of touched again on this too, but I hear this a lot with especially couples of like, I didn't do anything wrong, or they really cannot understand why that person is hurt by this. That's not what I meant. I hear that all the time. Well, that's not what I meant. And they're so hurt by it. And I will start couples. I'm like, well, I'm so glad you didn't mean that. Right. We'd be having a different conversation if you did mean, you were trying to mean that.
Right.
So points. We got points. We're already starting in the positive.
Exactly.
And they're still hurt.
Yes.
So I think that's also, it takes a lot of humility to go like, I don't even understand why you would feel that way from what I said. And I'll tell couples all the time, it doesn't matter. You don't have to understand. You actually don't have to agree with their response. All you need to do is care that it landed for them that way and it doesn't feel good for them. by saying I'm sorry, you're not saying, yes, I was trying to hurt you in that way. All you're saying is, I see you're hurt.
And I was a part of that.
Exactly. Unintentionally.
Yes.
But you were still a part of it.
Yes.
So I think those are kind of the heavy hitters of why it makes it hard.
Beautiful lesson as couples and just in relationships in general. It's like, no, you're not trying to, tell them that you agree with them or that you're apologizing for something crazy. It's like, or you're right or wrong. It's just, I am attuned to you. I see that something that I did or said hurt you. Yeah. And that matters to me because you matter to me.
Matter to me. Yeah. And it's something we can't talk about.
I found this great little quote by Kent Kaufman. So he and Bert Powell and Glenn Cooper wrote a book called Raising a Secure Child. Mm-hmm. And here's what it says. It says, ruptures happen, repairs also happen. And this is a very positive thing because children end up being more secure when they find that good things can follow bad things. We're not perfect. And if we were, we'd be setting our children up for severe disappointment in a world that is anything but perfect. Plus, we'd be preventing them from developing a resilient sense of self that trusts that mistakes are a normal, even healthy part of genuine relationships.
I love it.
I love it because he says, good things can follow bad things. Yeah. And as parents, it's our job to model on the inside of our homes what our kids are going to experience on the outside and how to do that in a good, positive way that serves them well in their future relationships. Mm-hmm. So by something blowing up and then us repairing it, we're telling them, like, when you get out there in the workforce and you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or you're meeting the in-laws for the first time, or it's Christmas time and you've never experienced a certain relative before. Yeah. Like, good things can happen after something bad or really, hurtful happens. Yes. Which is just the world. It's just,
it is. They're only going to interact with more humans once they leave your household. Yes. I love that you said that because that's one of the benefits of incorporating this is that it actually builds resiliency in our children because they're able to tolerate ruptures because they've learned how to get back into secrecy with people and because they will experience ruptures outside. They'll have the boss, they'll have the teacher that has it out for them. They'll have all those things. And if they don't know how to, they don't have that internal fortitude, they really flounder outside in the world. So yes, it is. And I think that's, it makes me excited because I was listening to a podcast and I'll reference it too, but she was talking about how sometimes we avoid the rupture like it's the evil necessary. And it's kind of like the monster. And we're just like, oh, it'll happen, but we're so sorry. And certainly we are not walking around the world like, can't wait to rupture. This is going to be fun, Exactly. We don't need any.
Can I make
exactly? We don't need any help doing it. It comes naturally, but it's not something we need to fear because of what you just shared. It's a vital part in building that internal resiliency, and it's unavoidable in relationships. Mm-hmm. So if we don't have to fear the rupture, if we know we're committed to the repair.
Yes. It gives me a flashback to the beginning of time. It's like, people have been screwing up and going detouring way off the path of what's right and good since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. And the important thing is that you just get back on track. Mm-hmm. As soon as you recognize that you've taken the dark alley. Yeah. Right? You get back out in the light. Yes. You call yourself out and you go, man, I need help, not straying away again.
Exactly.
Can you help me with these behaviors? And let's do this as a family. Let's work together to right our wrongs.
Yes. And it's not this big, oh my goodness, we're so bad. It's just like, oh, we're human. You're human. I'm human. It matters. Yeah. Our humanness when it interacts with each other, it matters, but it's not the end of the world because we don't have an expectation that this will never happen in our household.
Exactly.
That's really huge.
Ooh, that is big because we talked about this just before we even got on camera about, not promising that this is, you're never going to do it again.
Right.
Because it's just like, thank you for having mercy on me. Because tomorrow I'm probably going to do something else that's going to be, just a little rupture or a little tear in our relationship. And I hope that tomorrow you're going to have that kind of mercy on me too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it'll matter to me tomorrow too. We'll just be in this together.
Yes. But there's no promises that or you have to promise you will never do that again.
You're setting
mean,
up for failure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds nice. I would love to have that promise, but it's a false hope. And then you're setting up somebody for failure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Putting someone on a pedestal and then you kick them off the second they make a mistake. It's like, no, which again, expect ruptures, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I have to tell you something that's interesting. So my husband and I were talking about this rupture repair cycle, right?
Yes.
And he's like, Jordan, it's like weightlifting. I'm like,
oh yeah, muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like building muscles.
Absolutely.
How when you lift a really heavy weight,
Yes.
it's actually like micro tearing your muscle.
Yes, I love that. That's a beautiful analogy. Yeah.
And then your muscle has to repair it, which is what builds it bigger.
Yes. I love that. I couldn't think of a more perfect analogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also if you don't have the protein powder, the water, like
The rest, the refuel. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Then what's going to happen is every time you try to lift that weight, it's going to like, it could really damage your muscle. It could rip it away from the bone. Like it's not in good enough health from those, little micro tears.
Yeah.
Because you haven't been doing other things with it.
I love that.
Right?
Oh my gosh, yes. And that makes me think too, like with the toddlers, why it's so important to, with the little things of like, Mommy, you cleaned up my fire trucks and I was still playing with them. And it's like, oh buddy, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were still playing. That we're building like the small ruptures so that when they're high schoolers or they're college and we do something that's much more serious, there is a long history of relational currency that says we can handle tough things.
Yes.
Versus like there's a massive discord and we don't know what to do now. Let's try repair. And it's like we don't do this.
Right.
I don't know how to trust you in this. And so you're trusting with the fire trucks to the major ruptures where I like missed your high school graduation because I slept in or something like that. Or it's like, holy cow, that's gonna take a lot out of the bank.
Yes.
To repair that one.
Yes.
So, yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, that's so good. So yeah, and this all contributes to like the secure attachment that we all love. This is a major part of contributing to the secure attachment for our babies, and it has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it, Brooke. You bring the goodness. Now tell us where else we can go for resources more about kind of this rupture repair cycle.
Yes, absolutely. So I talked about this book last time, but this is one of my favorite parenting books. Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids, but they have a website, which I didn't talk about last time, ahaparenting.com. And I know you'll send that out, but that has so many great resources, articles. It breaks it down by age, 0 to 3 to 6 to 12. I mean, there's a ton of stuff about just resiliency, repair. In the book, there's a section about repair and resiliency. So love that. There's actually a book called The Power of Discord, which is what you mentioned. And it talks about the discord being the rupture. And so I haven't read this book yet, but I have read stuff from these people and I will be reading it soon. And I listened to a podcast, which I also want. So Attachment Theory in Action is a podcast, which is all about attachment. There's a million different topics within that, but the episode 156 and 157 are about this book and about the power of discord with our children and the rupture repair cycle. So
nice.
Yes. Those are my things.
Great resources. Okay, so Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids.
Yes.
And The Power of Discord.
Yeah.
And also, I would recommend, we had Eli Harwood on our show a couple episodes back talking about how to prevent sexual abuse in your kids. And she's a huge attachment guru. And so she has written a book recently about repairing and healing your attachment yourself as an adult, right?
Yes.
And how to do that so that you can move on and kind of change the pattern or, the legacy that was given to you and turn the tide and build these stronger attachment bonds with your kids.
Yep.
So follow Attachment Nerd on Instagram as well.
Yep.
We bring all the resources. Brooke, thank you so much for being on our show again.
Thank you for having me. I love being here.
So appreciate you. Guys, if you're looking for a little bit deeper dive on rupture and repair, specifically in your marriage, how to do this in real life with your kids, we have parent coaching that we have launched and you've got to join us. It's live. So I am the coach inside the group and it's from the comfort of your own home via Zoom. And it's just an awesome place to really kind of practice some of these skills in a very small group setting. And we create a very awesome foundation of safety, so that makes it easy to share some of these things that you have experienced in your own childhood, and then give you some empowerment to share what's going on with you personally as a parent. And I have to say, the reviews are in, and everybody highly recommended the course. They said they want more of it. So we know this is a service that's worth continuing. So go to familiesofcharacter.com, check out our latest parent coaching courses. I would highly recommend it. And then if you need resources for managing screen time, or things like setting a rule in your house that incentivizes your kids to be more honest and to lie and to hide less, check out our podcast episode about the honesty incentive rule. We've got tons of resources on our website and within our podcast library, Families of Character Show, which of course you know because you're listening right now. But if you know people that could benefit from this, please forward on these episodes. We would be so grateful, and I know they would too. We've got to share these messages with people in our circles so that we can all be growing better together. And I'll catch you on another episode of the show real soon. Take care, parents.